Hello and welcome to the next installment of Government to the People. I'm your host, Careen Koubek. Well, with Laurel smack dab in the middle of winter, we thought it might be timely to have our newest Public Works Director, Rob Ferree, come on and give our residents some helpful hints and information about how to navigate these winter streets. So, thank you for joining us, Rob. We really appreciate it, and congratulations on your appointment as Director.
Thank you.
Now, with Mother Nature here, she sure isn't being quiet this winter. Would you attest, would you agree to that?
I definitely would agree to that.
And once again, Public Works is showing other jurisdictions how to handle it. So good job. You and your guys are out there doing a great job clearing the streets.
To much of our ability, that's what our goal is.
Well, you do a great job, so thank you. I'll say thank you for the residents, okay? But we do have some questions that we'd like to ask you. I know that the residents are out there. They're probably wondering, what do we do in certain situations? So one of the questions is, are there parking restrictions in the city of Laurel during winter, during snow events?
Yes, on even number sides of streets that are dedicated as a snow emergency route, you are not allowed to park on that side of the streets when a snow emergency has been declared.
Okay, so speaking of declaring snow emergencies, how would the residents at home know that a snow emergency has been declared?
Via their radio or TV, that's basically how it's announced. Most jurisdictions are announced through the counties, but the city can also declare their own emergency on their own.
Okay, and if for whatever reason someone might not have a radio or a TV, could they call Public Works?
Sure, they can call Department of Public Works at 301-725-0088.
Okay.
Or they can call the Laurel Police Department non-emergency number at 301-498-0092.
And once the snow emergency is declared, how long does a resident have to move their vehicles?
I would say that they should be allowed about a half an hour to actually get out there and remove it from the side of the street that is declared no parking.
Okay, and what are the sides? So when a snow emergency is declared, what sides of the street should people not park on?
It's the even numbered side.
Even numbered side of the streets.
That's the side that is posted for no parking.
Okay, and if someone has, they're living on a street and they don't know if they're on a snow emergency route, where can they find a list of the street names so that they'll know better?
The City of Laurel's website, once they've got into that, they can go to the Public Works, and there's a drop-down box for snow removal, and in there it has a listing. It's like a map that's got all the snow emergency routes highlighted.
And what determines when the street a resident lives on is salted or plowed?
Basically, we have to do the snow emergency routes because they're the major routes that allow you to get through town, hospital, grocery stores, wherever. And then we do the hazardous locations, which are hills and sharp curves. And then the rest of the streets are done in that priority.
All right, so like I live on a court in Laurel. What part would that fall in?
That would be in the third tier.
The third tier?
Basically, once all the emergency routes and the hazardous locations are done, then we start working on all the other streets.
Okay,
which
great.
are courts, mainly courts and things of that nature.
Okay, all right, yeah, so we got to make sure that the ambulances and fire trucks and police can get through, right?
Correct.
Okay. So once the snow has fallen, we've got a lot on our sidewalks, in our driveways. Of course, they have to be plowed. When you're shoveling the snow, can you throw it into the street, figuring, oh, the plow will come through and get it?
No, you don't want to put it back in the street because when the plow does come back through, all he's going to do is put it back into your property. The best thing is to do is stack, pile it between the right-of-way or in your front yard or somewhere of that nature. Otherwise, when the plow comes back, it's going to end up back in your yard.
And then people will be mad.
Correct, especially if they've just shoveled their sidewalks and their
Exactly.
driveways. The number one thing is to keep the streets open.
Right, yeah. We were just talking about emergency vehicles and,
Yes.
and first responders. We've got to make sure that the roads are cleared for them. So, once the snow comes down and you're shoveling, how long does a resident have to clear the sidewalks and driveways on their property?
Have 12 hours once the snow has totally stopped to clear the sidewalks in front of their house.
Okay, and this is another dicey area sometimes too between neighbors, but if it snows and I've just shoveled my sidewalk and my neighbor 3 days later still hasn't shoveled it and it's still piled up to here, who would they call to let them know so that they can come out and tell them, hey, shovel that?
Community Planning and Business Services has inspectors that would go out and alert the resident of that address that they need to clear their sidewalk.
Okay, so call 301-725-5300 and ask for community planning, and they'll get someone out from code enforcement to tell them we need you to shovel this. It's been well after 12 hours.
Correct. Okay.
So who takes care of the sidewalks? Now, I know I take care of mine. I know my neighbor has to take care of theirs. If it's in front of a business, if it's not in front of a business or not in front of a house, who ends up taking care of those parts of the sidewalks?
The Department of Parks and Recreation does all the, I guess you could say, the open areas along their parks and along roadways where there are no businesses or houses. And the same is for them. 12 hours after it stops, they're out there clearing these areas.
Okay.
If there's an area of concern, they can, again, call City Hall at 301-725-5300 and ask for the Department of Parks and Recreation.
Okay, that's great information. Thank you. I know our residents are going to be jotting this down so that they know who to call and what numbers they need. Now, let's get off the snow a little bit, even though, oh, I wish we could, but we're in the middle of winter, we can't. But Public Works just recently put out their calendar, 2015 calendar. And if you are a resident of the city of Laurel, you receive this, correct?
Correct. It is delivered to every house in Laurel.
So if someone didn't receive this, what can they do to get one?
They can call the Department of Public Works at 301-725-0088, and we will arrange to have a calendar delivered.
And it's got lots of great information on it. So you have all the contacts on the back of it. You have emergency numbers. What's inside of one of these?
It's got schedules of when they do like yard waste pickups, special pickups, just a wide variety of what the city government does for all the residents.
And if we open it up to a page, you can see it's in calendar format, which goes great on the refrigerator. And it'll have holidays and when trash is picked up and yard waste when the spring comes and summer. So if you don't have one of these, please give Public Works a call and let them get one to you because this has got a lot of great information in it. Anything else you want to tell our residents?
Not at this time. I think we've covered everything. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to everybody and probably get to do it again.
Well, definitely, because I want to thank you for coming on, but we definitely will have Rob on again come spring because we're going to have yard waste pickup, and I'm sure our residents are going to want to know what they need to do to put yard waste out and where it goes and how it has to be bundled and all of that. So
spring cleanup.
Excellent. So thank you again. We really appreciate you coming on and taking time out of your busy schedule. I know it's crazy right now. Winter's dropping some great precipitation on us, much to people's and Public Works chagrin. So, but we're going to let Rob go. He's got a lot to do. But if you'll stay tuned, we have Michele Saylor, Director of Budget and Personnel Services. She's going to come on and discuss a little bit about how the city puts together the budget. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Laurel, Maryland, where strolling a footbridge in a park can bring neighbors together for some scenic relaxation along the Patuxent.
This is my Laurel.
Where a small business can thrive for generations, luring people to Main Street for more than just festivals.
This is my Laurel.
For all things Laurel, tune in to Laurel TV. Turn your power on.
Thanks for staying tuned. Well, as I teased earlier, joining me on the set today is Michele Saylor, Director of Budget and Personnel Services. Thank you for coming on. I can't tell you how much I know you're busy right now, but as Public Works is clearing the snow off the streets, you're in City Hall helping city staff prepare the budget for 2016. And January is the magic month, is when everything starts. So why don't you let our residents know what it takes to put together a budget?
Well, Careen, as you know, our fiscal year runs from July 1st to June 30th each year, and the budget process does begin in January. The mayor is required by charter to present a balanced budget to the city council by May 1st each year. Each department is responsible for providing me with projections on the revenue that their individual departments generate. So the police department provides estimates for red light camera ticket collections, and Parks and Recreation provide estimates for collections for season passes at the pool or admissions at the 2 community centers. My department is responsible for the main revenue source, which is our real estate tax revenue. But I need the information from the state of Maryland, who provides the assessable base, which is the grand total of the value of all the real estate property in the city limits.
Now, that's like when years ago we were always saying either raise it a penny, lower it a penny, that taxable base, that's what you're talking about, is like what the city charges for taxes, and then does it match up with the state or the county, or how does that work?
Well, the state is responsible for providing the assessments for those properties. So that would be in the residential community, that would be the house and the land on which the house sits. So the state provides a value for that. The city takes that value and applies our tax rate. Starting with the current tax rate of 71 cents per $100 of assessed value.
That's pretty good.
We utilize that in order to come up with the total revenue figure. And we keep that in place as we compile the numbers from the other departments and some of the other sources that the city collects, such as income tax revenue and other grants that the state provides or the federal government.
So the assessments, how often are those done?
The assessments are on a triennial basis. So every 3 years, the property owners receive a notice from the state of Maryland, and it will tell you over the 3-year period. So if your assessment is going to increase, it will actually be a 3-year phase-in. It won't all go up at one time. On the commercial side, it's also phased in. But more often than not, that is done at a 1 year period of time.
So 1 year, and then so the phase-in happens in 1 year, whereas residential, it's over a 3-year period. Now, when departments are trying to figure out revenues and all of that, how would a department determine? Do they go through past years to see what's been raised in the past and see if what the current rate, especially if we're raising prices or lowering prices on things, how would a department figure out what the revenues, expenditures are?
They are encouraged, as is the city as a whole from the state of Maryland, to look at their history. Each department has access to the financial database that we have to run reports on their revenue and expenditures in order to prepare for the coming year. So on the revenue side, if there may be a recommendation to increase the user fees, because some of the activities, if you go to the pool and participate in those types of activities, then that's just the cost of doing that activity, rather than have the whole burden on the tax base. And for the city to offset those revenues. So they do look at the history, they look at what it takes to run the programs, and in the case of Parks and Recreation, they compare themselves to other jurisdictions. What is their industry's standard at that time.
Well, that's good to know.
So there's a lot of information taken into account.
Great. And as you said, it has to be passed by May 1st?
It has to be submitted to the City Council by May 1st. It has to be adopted by June 30th. And that requires an ordinance to be adopted by the Mayor and City Council. If no action were taken, then the budget that is presented would take effect
Okay.
by default on July 1st.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Now, in all this, I mean, I know there's a lot that goes on. Each department has their hands in it, trying to help you, you know, and you're helping them. So say the budget's passed. Come fall, every year, you have an account group that comes in and audits this. What is involved with being audited?
Every 3 years, we advertise for the auditing services to get quotes and bids from various companies. So we're required to have an independent audit.
Okay. Is that by the city charter?
That is by the city's charter and by the state of Maryland.
Okay.
Actually, late in May each year, they come and do preliminary work. We run them some reports on both our cash receipt side as well as accounts payable for the checks that we've written to pay our bills. And they make a random selections on each side. At that point, we pull the information. Now we're able to pull it electronically through our Laserfish system, and we give them a thumb drive that has all the selected samples on the flash drive. They review that for the documentation, so that if you wrote a $2,000 check, they're looking for an invoice, you know, that substantiates the use of those funds. Then typically for us, they would come back after the fiscal year's over. It's been after Labor Day for us the past few years.
Okay.
By then, they've communicated with us a standard list of items, the funds that we get from the state of Maryland, like I said, the income tax, admissions and amusement tax, and the other money that's distributed by the state of Maryland. And they're looking to verify that we recorded the receipts of money and the expenditures of money in appropriate accounts, and that procedures were followed in doing so.
And then the report is brought before the mayor and city council?
The report is actually first submitted to the state of Maryland.
Oh, okay.
We're required to submit to them, to the Department of Legislative Services,
Okay.
a copy of what will be a booklet that will reflect standard reports. There's a governmental accounting standards board, and there's government accounting practices that they're to follow in the format of developing this booklet that shows all the financial activity encapsulated from that year. But we will be having the auditors come to our meeting, actually before the meeting at 6:30 on February 9th. They will come to present the FY 2014 audit to the mayor and city council.
Oh, great. So it all happens at once. There's so much going on for you all. So once the budget is approved, you've got the audit report, where can residents find all this information?
We provide a copy of both the audit and the budget are put on the Department of Budget and Personnel Services webpage on the city website.
And that's www.cityoflaurel.org. And if someone doesn't have, I mean, it's very rare nowadays, but someone might not have internet or a way to get to that to print it out. Where could they come to get a copy of it?
My office always does have hard copies of all the documents that we are required to maintain, so they can stop by our office at the window at City Hall.
Okay, 8103 Sandy Spring Road, Laurel, Maryland, 20707. And if they have any questions, they could always call the City Hall and 301-725-5300. And you would be more than happy to have one of your staff, who's ever an expert at whatever the question is, be able to answer that, right?
Yes, on the website, all of the positions are listed that are
great.
in our office with the extension, with the phone extension.
There you go. So you can just go to the website. It's all taken care of right there. Anything else you'd like to let the residents know about?
No.
You're the silent department. You are the cornerstone. You are so important to the city and the residents, and yet there's not always a lot. It's always Public Works or Parks and Rec, you know, that you hear about. So I wanted to make sure people knew how hard you all work to make sure that the residents have what they need to make things run smoothly here in the city.
I appreciate that. The other departments are more visible, but we're always here getting the job done. And
yes, you are.
taking care of things after the fact.
Well,
so.
you're taking care of the employees and you're taking care of the residents. So thank you very much for what you all do behind the scenes.
Thank you.
All right, so thank you again for coming on and taking the time out. I know, you're in the middle of an avalanche of information, so just having you come has been a pleasure. Thank you again. And that's our edition. That's it for this edition of Government to the People. Please stay tuned next month. We'll bring you the next one. I think we're going to try and have someone from the clerk's office come in because there is a little thing going on, I think, with an election this year. And we want to make sure to have everybody has the information they need soon enough. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next month. Thanks.